Oh, I didn't tell you. Guess what?
What?
I'm going to pick up a puppy on Sunday.
How exciting! What kind of puppy?
A Pomeranian.
Oh, little
He's
baby!
so cute. He's so fluffy. Oh my gosh, I'm already in love with him.
Oh, what's the name?
I'm thinking Bosco.
Bosco.
Yeah, it's different. I was like,
Right.
it sounds like like a big dog, and I was like, that's kind of funny
Yeah.
because he's so little.
Someone's career's about to fall. Ooh, did you hear that leaked call? When you wanna hear some more, you know where to go. The broadcast.
Hello?
Hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Good. Sorry, I didn't have notifications on for. I have my notifications muted for Discord, so sorry about that.
No,
Oh,
all
you're
good. All good. Yeah, you're not late at all. We're just sitting here talking about Bunny's new puppy that she's gonna get.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm so
Yeah.
excited.
It sounds very cute. Yeah.
Hello and welcome back to the broadcast. I'm Bunny, and with me today, as always, is Miss Eva.
Hi.
And we also have joining us today Miss Stardust.
Hello.
Yay. Hi. So glad you can come and hang out with us here today. Now, what have you been doing? What have you been up to?
It's funny. Even though it's kind of like the politics season is really kicking up, I find
yeah.
I've had my content kind of take a swerve into more drama content.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's been super interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So are
Oh.
you focused more on what's going on around the internet than what's going on in real life right now?
Essentially, yeah. I don't know
Yeah.
how healthy that is, but yeah,
Well,
that's what I'm doing.
yeah, a lot of people make their living off doing that, so that's exactly what we do here. So,
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
who wants to talk about real life, honestly?
honestly, true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are the situations that's been circling the internet right now? There's been a massive sort of uproar. Maybe if you can call it a beast of a situation. We've got,
So
we've got,
kind.
yeah, thank you. We've got Mr. Beast's co-host and longtime friend, Ava Kris Tyson, who is formerly known as Kris Tyson before transitioning, has been accused of messaging multiple minors as well as sharing revenge porn of Jeanette McCurdy using, the N-word of Mr. Beast stream when the cameras are off, when they think the cameras are off. And also one of the situations that we've kind of been circling more around is the association with the artist known as Shadman. So, if anyone do you have more of a background about Shadman and what he's been doing there, Stardust? I know that you said you've been covering the situation a little bit. Can you
Mhm.
please, I know the bunny doesn't really quite know what's going on here, so maybe if you can kick us off with just letting us know who Shadman is, if you've got that
Sure.
information there. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you guys know about a site called Newgrounds?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I have never been on it, but I recognize the name. Yeah.
So Newgrounds was like an entertainment website. I mean, it's still around and it hosts a lot of user-generated content. So one of those things that it would host is animation, games. A lot of people before YouTube was a thing. A lot of people would go into Newgrounds and they would watch like animations that people made. They would play games that different animators made, things like that. And so where Shadman really got his start is was he was a creator on Newgrounds. And what's interesting is after talking to some YouTubers about this is that a lot of the time these Newgrounds creators were kind of like put on a pedestal. They had like a cult like following, and Shadman happens to be one of those people.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, so he is known for making very not safe for work art. People thought it was funny. He would make Rule 34 art and graphic art, and
Yeah.
that would often land him in a lot of trouble because he kept pushing and pushing the boundaries of
Yeah.
Yeah.
what's
So
acceptable.
Yeah, so for the normies that are watching this or listening to this right now, explain Rule 34.
Right. Rule 34 is basically it's an internet rule. Essentially, Rule 34, it's kind of like a meme that claims that internet pornography exists concerning every possible topic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So if
True.
it exists, there's porn of it. And there's
absolutely.
even
Yeah.
websites dedicated to it, right? Where you can like type in Rule 34 and then you can filter by tag or filter by fandom. It's insane.
I feel like, yeah, that
Yeah.
is insane. Even going as far as like, parodies of like just general family shows and people that you would normally see
Yeah.
on regular TV and
Oh,
just stuff you wouldn't even think about
yeah.
like
Did y'all
having this
ever
sort of
see?
situation.
Household objects, yeah, they'll like
Yeah.
yeah, it's in some sense I get it. It's very funny and I can definitely like find the humor in like just really absurd things, right? But
Mm.
then there are things that I just feel you shouldn't make. You should
Oh
not
Oh,
yeah.
make
absolutely.
any of that, right? If
Yeah.
it's based off of like real people, and this is like kind of foreshadowing, but
Yeah.
if it's based off of real people and those real people as well did not consent and they happen to be underage as well, it's like really, really, really bad, right?
Yeah.
Even with
Right.
them not being underage, is still really, really bad. I couldn't care if somebody's making like Rule 34 with like a kitchen blender, right? Like, I don't
Right.
know. I don't really care about that, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Crazy. Were you
that's
gonna say
true.
something?
There's definitely topics that yeah, probably shouldn't be made into porn. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So, with Shadman in particular, there was like this turning point within like the commentary community and with some other communities as well that had been aware to the situation. So, like Shadman had essentially created real life images or like the porn images based on real people, and these real people were also underage. Namingly so, Keemstar's younger daughter at the time, I believe, was like 12 years old or 14. Is that
Yeah.
7.
right?
She was 7.
7.
Oh God, it's even worse than I thought. I thought it was like no.
Yeah.
And
That's
honestly,
Yeah.
just
awful.
to give you guys, I think there's a little bit of backstory I think I could give as well. Shadman is from Switzerland
Yeah.
and was in an art school prior to, I guess, the administration of that art school found all of his not safe for work art, and he got into a
Mhm.
lot of trouble. And in
Oh.
Switzerland, I believe they're a bit more strict about what is considered illegal when it comes to
Right.
like drawings and stuff like that. He ended up like fleeing Switzerland, and
Ooh.
because of that, he got kicked out of his art school. So he fled Switzerland, and now I don't know where he's living now. I think he's in America now, but I don't know where exactly. So, um,
Ah.
yeah, he was. So he already had a history. People were not like super aware of this because whenever he talked about it, he was kind of vague about it, right? But
Yeah.
basically, the artwork in his portfolio was discovered, and the drawings were considered highly illegal,
Oh
Yeah.
and
God.
he was considered a menace to society.
Oh,
So
wow.
he,
That title. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So he first moved to Canada and then eventually to the United States. So yeah, it's just he has quite the history, but yeah, he's always been very vague about that, and a lot of people didn't know that. But yes, he did do art of essentially how that started with Keemstar is
Mm.
it was the 2016 elections, and somebody asked him on Tumblr, if Donald Trump wins, will you make art of Keemstar's daughter, I guess like giving Trump a blowjob?
Ugh.
Oh my God.
And so he screenshotted that anonymous question, posted it to Twitter, and said, if Donald Trump wins, I'll do that. And so then Donald Trump won, and then he ended up making that art, which is
Oh.
disgusting because again, at that time, if you look back,
Yeah.
you'll find that that Keemstar's daughter was 7 years old.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's already
That's so
super
sick.
invasive for any woman who is really any woman who exists in any part of society, right? If somebody
Yeah.
made not safe for work art of you without your knowledge, without your consent, and posted it up on the internet and had a huge following, it would be incredibly invasive. You probably feel violated in some sort of way. And this girl hasn't even gone and become an adult yet, right? She's still
No.
like so innocent to
Yeah.
I don't even know how you'd have a conversation with her about it, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like, how
that,
do you even begin to bring that up, saying, "Look, there's this certain artist that's doing a certain thing about you on the internet. Yeah, like, we can't really do much
How do you
about it right
prepare a
now."
girl for that,
I
right? Like,
know.
yeah.
Like, she's not a public figure, like, she's just the daughter of someone who is a public figure, and not
Mhm.
even, like, just daughter, she's 7 years old. That is,
That
like, the
is
most sickening
awful.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes me
So
feel sick. I hate it.
ugh.
Yeah.
So, like, we know that situation, but now we are kind of getting to the point where there has been like instances of Ava Kris Tyson interacting with Shadman themselves, not
Mhm.
only interacting but also supporting their art.
yeah.
And we've seen that in like multiple tweets as well as like video footage of their art hanging on the wall behind them in some clips that was on the MrBeast channel as well. Like there's so many interactions with Shadman throughout the years that all of a sudden, well, with this being brought to light, people are almost like torches and pitchforks for everyone that's ever interacted with
Yeah.
Shadman.
Yeah, yeah, they definitely are. And especially since the Keemstar thing was so like public and widely known about, I
Yeah.
know the internet was like a different time back then, but there's not a chance that these people did not know that something happened between Keemstar and Shadman. So Ava Kris Tyson, the artwork that she owns that was hanging on her wall in that video was art, I believe, of a girl who was underage who had like a Queen of Spades tattoo on her ankle,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's suggestive. It was a suggestive
Yeah.
image. I believe she's like filleting a gun or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just it's I don't know how you can be aware of that and still own artwork of Shadman's and not be basically explicitly endorsing that kind of content, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, by
So,
you paying him for it, you're pretty much telling him to continue doing it. So there's no
Mhm.
other way to say that.
well, not only paying him for it, like the interactions that like I've seen on Twitter that have come up and surfaced recently, it was more
Yeah.
like they were kind of like enabling them as well, like
Oh.
pleading with them to do certain drawings and saying like yes, do this one, and like kind of like really egging them on, to so to speak,
Yeah,
right?
being a real dedicated fan of
Fan.
Shadman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely.
And
Wow.
the stuff with Shadman, the harassment doesn't end at Keemstar's daughter. Shadman
No,
also harassed Daphne Keene, who was 12 around the time that he made art of
Wow.
her. And he also harassed a underage YouTuber and ended up linking her content underneath his artwork that he made of her, which is like on top of you making like explicit art, you're linking to her content. Your fans are going to go there and harass her, right? So he's
yeah.
Exactly.
very well known. So
Oh,
Uh,
that is actually so sickening. Oh my
yeah.
God. So, well, let's get back to like the Ava Kris Tyson situation
mhm.
here.
Mhm.
So, like I know that there was like some things that sort of came to light and really kicked off like the so-called like cancellation of Ava. And it's like it kind of did stem from this first, or do you think it sort of stemmed from the messages being leaked that they were interacting with minors?
I think that it really stemmed from, honestly, I think it stemmed from Nick Merckx, honestly. I think it started
Mm.
off with people kind of wrongly calling Ava Tyson out. It was already open knowledge that Ava Tyson was a supporter of Shadman, but all
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
people who called her out would never bring that up. They would call her out and be like, "Oh, how could you abandon your family to become a woman, blah blah blah." It was just basically
Yeah.
transphobic stuff, right? And
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll never forget like a tweet from Bo Blacks actually around that time where it's like, "Oh, being mad at Ava Kris Tyson for being trans is lame, but getting mad at Ava Kris Tyson for owning Shadman Lolicon art, that's the better one to be mad about, right?"
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
So yeah, so obviously like the commentary people were like whatever, you know, but the stuff with Shadman, I guess, kind of took more attention recently, and it wasn't until I believe Prism 42 made his god awful video. By the way, it was just a terrible
Yeah,
video.
I've heard it was the worst video that could ever come to light about this
Oh,
situation,
it was so
and
painful.
Yeah.
I had so much trouble getting through it. It was like almost rage inducing, like how mundane and boring it was.
It really
right.
was. I
So,
tried to watch
like,
it just to see what was going on, and I don't even think I finished it.
Yeah.
oh, right. So it was more about like it just being just incredibly horrible, rather than it like sort of pointing towards different opinions or anything like that, right?
Well, yeah, he's like putting all of these like interactions with Ava Kris Tyson and other people, and some of them
Mm.
he's kind of reading too much into. And then
Mm-hmm.
he keeps bringing up the fact that Ava Kris Tyson's bisexual, which is not really like relevant to any of it.
Yeah.
And then he's like got printed out screenshots that he's showing on camera, and he's got like
Printed
a
out on
packet of
paper?
yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
Like,
It's going old school there. What's going
yeah,
on?
like forget editing. Let's just show like the camera these printed out screenshots, this packet of printed
Oh
out
my God.
screenshots.
I didn't know people still own printers. That's how I was just like, what? Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing.
So,
Oh my God.
so that video came out and it got a lot of criticism from a lot of commentary. And then people did actually, you know, they were interested, right? But there wasn't like enough out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then this Nathan guy comes out, right?
Mm.
And makes an allegation that Ava Kris Tyson was inappropriate with him,
Yeah.
and was inappropriate with other minors as well in a Discord server they all shared together. And he put out a couple of videos. People asked him for proof, and he started posting screenshots for proof. And that ended up blowing up. Like in actuality, that's what actually blew up. So
Yeah.
then everybody started pouring through that, and then that's when some of commentary was like, hey, also Kris Tyson is a Shadman fan, a big Shadman fan. And then
Mm.
that put a spotlight, a magnifying glass over that, and all of
Yeah.
the audience found out who Shadman was, looked through this, saw this was disgusting.
Uh-huh.
And that's how the big Shadman reckoning happened.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it was like kind of like commentary just goes, yeah, hey, do you remember this happening? Now you understand what we're going through. Now you understand what we're
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah.
Okay, dummy.
Yeah, so like obviously like with Nathan coming out about his story and stuff like that was a big deal because he claims that he was preyed upon when he was about 15 years old. So a lot of people in that Discord server had been mentioned, and like honestly, there was beyond a dozen alleged minors inside that server that was getting access to like links of like pornography, inappropriate sexualized images, just general like sexual talk that minors should not be exposed to, like essentially normalizing the whole sexualization of people and to minors as well. It's just it's a big thing.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how that video, that god awful video, came out. They also tried to get this person, also known as Lava, to come on and essentially speak about the situation, but there was like a false sort of pretense there, I believe. They were
Yes.
sort of like they tried to interview them about what in
For a job
particular.
opportunity.
Yeah, so they were like, hey, like, yeah, what about this job? And then kind of sideswiped them with, so you're in Ava Kris Tyson's server. Do you think you were groomed? Are you a victim? And just kind of like laying it out onto them that way, because apparently that they were 13 years old and they ran the Discord with them at 13. So when that was happening, there was a lot of interaction between Ava Kris Tyson and Lava that kind of essentially put Lava as one of the head mods in that situation, and actually being able to discern the the adult content. So there was at some point they were kind of having this conversation going, well, you know, should we be deleting the adult content from the Discord server? And it's like, I don't know why we
Yeah.
should. It's like, well, you know, maybe we should put it in an SFW one and just have adults there. Well, it's like, well, how do you know everyone's going to be an adult? And it's like, well, I don't know. And like, there was kind
They
of
were
like
just don't
suggesting
have
like,
it.
yeah, we'll like maybe we'll manually give people roles, blah blah blah, right?
yeah,
And even they for a while have a dedicated like not safe for work channel, right? That was like restricted, right? For a while it was like open, and then for a while it was restricted.
yeah,
But they still had plenty of minors on the moderation team, and those minors were the ones who were moderating things there, right? Um,
yeah,
and then I believe that it got opened up again. I could be wrong on this timeline, because reading through those DMs is or not DMs, that group chat is confusing in itself. But then at a certain point, like Ava Kris Tyson is just like, I don't really care. Like, you know, we should just leave it. You know, blah blah blah, right?
yeah,
Um, so there like already was being shared like a whole bunch of like not safe for work stuff. There's like no age verification. They knew that like the server was filled primarily of people who were under 18. And even if we're like going to be even if you were to be generous and say, oh, maybe Ava Kris Tyson didn't know that this was bad, right? Or maybe Ava Kris Tyson, like back then it was normal for YouTube creators to interact with their fans this way, and
yeah,
we didn't have these standards, right? Even if you were to say that, it's still bad, because one of the ways that people groom children is they introduce them to increasingly sexual content under
yes,
like trying to make it seem normalized to them, right?
Exactly.
So the more you normalize it, so the more you can like you know, before the more that it's normalized to, the more it is that you like are potentially going to be groomed by
yeah,
somebody,
Yeah.
right? and
absolutely.
and
'Cause
and adults also, if you're like really friendly with somebody, if you trust that person, if you really look up to that person and admire them, and they start pushing all these sexual topics around you, and you start to like normalize those things, it's not unheard of for inappropriate relationships to take part, because it becomes so normalized. So
Exactly.
yeah. So I'm just having a look at the one of the posts actually, like from Cope and Seethe actually.
mhm.
So they've like they actually posted like a list of of who, like a list of people who appear to be minors in the server, like between 2017 and 2019. And I'm looking at it, and it's like basically about 20 people between the ages of 11 and 17. And
Yeah.
I'm looking at that, and there is, yeah, 7 people who are actually staff that had access to all of this sort of stuff going on. Like one of
Yeah.
them even made a mod for making a hentai bot at 14 years old as
Yes.
well.
And I think
Yeah, so
majority of the mod team was under 18. There were a couple of people who were over 18, but majority of them were under 18, I believe.
yeah, that's insane. Like, what was the like a lot of people were trying to compare this situation with the Dr. Disrespect situation, right? And like I don't believe that there is an equation there. I don't believe that there is something that is like, you know, that this equals this in any way. If
Yeah.
anything, like I believe that it's very close to, like, you know, I hate to compare them, but if you're going to compare them, it's very close to the way that, you know, our ukulele lady was kind of
Yeah.
doing
Yes,
that
Colleen
to
Ballinger. Yeah,
Colleen
actually,
Ballinger.
that's a pretty accurate comparison, I would say. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, it's also demonstrating a similar lack of boundaries, a
Yeah.
similar like just inappropriate subjects of conversation. There are
Yeah.
like safe ways to bring these things up around people who are younger, but I'm not sure that the way that Kris Tyson or Colleen Ballinger did that was appropriate, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, you know, with all of these kids who really looked up to Ava Kris Tyson and really looked up to Mr. Beast, and Mr. Beast was apparently in this Discord server as well. A whole bunch of them admire these figures, right? It's not unheard of, like for let's say you're a younger person and you develop a crush on somebody that you really admire, and they're pushing these sexual topics to you, right? Like, it's just completely inappropriate and kind of dangerous. So
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, I'm actually like quite shocked about how this is sort of like coming out very slowly, and the fact that like MrBeast only like recently had kind of acted on that himself, because he said like, like over the this was like yeah, last month, about like a week and a half ago or something like that. MrBeast was saying that he'd become aware of the situation, like there was like really serious allegations of Ava Kris Tyson's online behavior, and I'm opposed to such unacceptable acts, and that he's
yeah,
basically like cut off Ava from the MrBeast brand and all
yeah,
association with MrBeast and the channel as well. And he's saying he doesn't condone or support the actions there. But what you would find in most of like in even some of the Discord interactions, he was in there. He would use that Discord. He was known, like he knew what was going on at the time, and even like to the point where he would comment on the size of Ava Kris Tyson's member, and
mhm,
was then saying like, that it's pretty big, I've seen it, and saying this to a Discord full of minors, and it's
yeah,
just like, at what point do you actually accept fault in yourself and say that, I was involved, I did know what's going on, but I didn't realize like, this or this.
yeah,
It was just kind of like, well, it's basically all of their fault. It's all Ava Tyson's fault. And, I have had independent investigators come in and,
yeah,
trying to do a comprehensive investigation, and, I'll take further actions based on their findings. It's like, dude, you knew.
He
yeah.
You
There's
probably
knew
no
this
has
way
whole
he
time.
didn't
lawyers
know.
telling him.
There's no way he didn't know, right?
Yeah.
Because they were roommates for a while. And
Yeah.
there's even video footage of them being in Ava Kris Tyson's place, and that poster, that specific poster of that girl with the gun and the King of
Yeah.
Spades, not King of Spades, Queen of Spades tattoo. And she's got, by the way, just so there's no there's no ambiguity about her age, she's
Yeah.
got braces, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, she very much looks like a child. And MrBeast is in one of these videos, and he's like sitting there and staring at the poster, like he saw the poster, right? So
Yeah.
it's one thing to, I think a lot of people would be like, somewhat sympathetic if MrBeast came out and said like, look, like, yeah, this stuff is inappropriate, and I could have seen the signs back then, but it was a different time, and I didn't know that all of these things, like, I didn't know the extent of this, and I
Yeah.
realized like how harmful this was. And I
Yeah.
think that would be one that's completely different than what he's doing now, where it's, I didn't know any of this happened, right? Because it's clear he did, So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is funny is when they were living together at the time, like MrBeast had a video, and he said that like Chris had moved out, and apparently the Shadman art was still up on the wall at the time of that video. So it's not like they took it down or anything like that, because like, it belonged to them. It was still up. It was still like, you know, in its all glory. Like it was just the one poster surrounded by nothing on this giant wall, and it's kind of like,
That
so how much of this is you and how much of this is Kris Tyson?
yeah.
Like
Yeah, that kind of like makes me think, and like this could be a stretch, but like whose poster was it really?
yeah, whose poster was it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like now that all of that has sort of come out, and there was a whole bunch of Discord leaks that had happened.
yeah,
These leaks included like a whole bunch of messages towards minors, a
yeah,
whole lot of inappropriate conversations, lewd images,
yeah.
even like
That's
links to
yeah.
Shadman's artwork. Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing I would say is that's one part in the story that I think I didn't quite like fill in. So after Nathan came out saying that he was interacting with Ava Kris Tyson when he was like 15 or 16, and Ava Kris Tyson was inappropriate with him, people were asking him for evidence. He started posting Discord screenshots, and then Lava came out and said that, continued to say that they had not been a victim. They're not
Yeah.
groomed, and the stuff that
Yeah.
happened in the Discord wasn't that bad, right? And then
Yeah.
apparently behind the scenes, people who were previously part of that Discord server, who knew
Mhm.
Lava and knew Nathan, decided after that statement that oh, that's not right. We need to
Yeah.
release this. So they released all the logs of the
Yeah.
Discord server, and people started pouring through them, and it became pretty evident that Kris Tyson was definitely very inappropriate. Like, there's even a comment where she's typing, that she's furiously refreshing Shadman's website, right? Or
Yeah.
waiting for a specific Shadman post to come out, right? So it's, yeah, there's plenty of stuff there that is just like super alarming and eyebrow raising.
Yeah, of course. And so like after like these chat logs and stuff came out, Lava then resurfaced and was like, "Hey, here's my statement about the Discord. This is about 5 or 6 years ago, and I thought I had a good memory of the situation, but now after reading it, I realized that the stuff was inappropriate and wrong." So like they were really gunning for like, there's nothing wrong here. I wasn't groomed. Nothing happened that was inappropriate. And then looking over it again with like fresh eyes and a fresh mind there, they kind of went, these conversations should not have happened, especially with the people of the
Yeah.
age. And,
Yeah.
they condemned them. And, she still, like, they still believe that they're not a grooming victim. But these
Mhm.
conversations should not have happened. And that's the thing is that, like, when you're inside that situation as a victim of grooming, you don't realize you're being groomed because this is like one of those
Exactly.
situations where they're like, being friendly towards you and they're normalizing certain situations that are very inappropriate to you. And they're trying to bring you closer. It's like, yeah, we're interacting as friends on like, this really close level here. And, I can trust you with these situations. We're going to joke around with this. And that's what
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of makes them like,
Yeah.
have this sense of like, like, no, we were friends. There wasn't anything
Yeah.
grooming there. Like,
And yeah, it's they made a little like social community, a group of
mm,
people who like interacted frequently, and it was fun, right? It was probably fun from the perspective of somebody who is like in lava situation, right? That's
yeah,
generally how these, it wouldn't work if it weren't fun and exciting
yeah.
for kids, right?
Yeah.
So it was fun and exciting to be interacting with these big content creators that they looked up to, and they thought it was funny when they would say certain things. And there are probably aspects of those friendships that they had with these people that were genuine, right? And then aspects that were overstepping boundaries and should not
Yeah.
have happened at all, right? And
Yeah.
it's so complicated, these like this whole like relationship between like an underage person and an above age person who should know better. It's so
Mhm.
Yeah.
complicated, right? So I don't blame Lava for not having like that mentality in their head or not thinking that they were groomed, right?
Yeah.
Because from their perspective, they still feel like they had all the power, even though
Yeah.
these things should not have been suggested to them.
That's
So,
right. Yeah. It's essentially
Exactly.
like a brainwashing, like
mhm.
kind of. It's just like they're
Well,
they're led to believe that like they're
yeah.
so like
It
intimate
would
in
kind
the
of
way of
reminds me. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like the way Tana says that she views the thing that happened with Cody Ko. Like at the time, she didn't think it was like there was anything weird, but the older she gets and the closer she is to like the age he was, that's when you start
Mhm.
realizing, wait a minute, like
Yeah, and you
I
look at
wouldn't do that
somebody
at this
who's
age.
yeah, you look at somebody who's the age, well, she's looking at some people who are the age that she was, and she's thinking,
Yeah,
I would never, right? But
exactly.
I remember Tana saying that she grew up watching Cody Ko, right? I mean, like,
Yeah,
yeah.
what kind of, and he's a good looking guy. So, like, what kind of girl wouldn't be completely flattered to get that type of attention, right?
Yeah.
So, in
That's
Yeah.
one
that.
sense, she probably thought she wasn't thinking of herself as a victim, but as she gets older and she looks back and looks at
Mm-hmm.
people who were her age now, she's like, no, I would never do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
because you're
yeah,
essentially like a fan of that person, and like you're
yeah,
kind of feeling like you're honored to be in the position that they could
Yeah.
actually reach out to you and talk to you, and
mhm,
have that sort of interaction with them. And so
yeah,
you don't want to think badly of them because they've given their time and they've given like
Yeah, you
their
already
like
have them up on a
innermost feeling.
pedestal.
Exactly, yeah. And
Yeah.
so you feel like already that they can't do anything wrong. They're just, being really nice to you. But in reality, it's very predatorial, like in the way
Mm-hmm.
that it comes across in the end. Yeah. So, speaking about that, Discord leaks and stuff like that, a few days ago, they were actually the website that hosted the Mr. Beast Discord and the ones that involved the messages with Ava Kris Tyson and the miners was taken down, and they were served with what everyone can only assume is like a cease and desist. And they terminated everything to do with the website and like respiratory with no notice. So yeah, since then
Pretty
people have
insane.
attempted to re-upload the files, but like they've been met with the same sort of situation. So they've been taken off. So
Wow.
what do you think about that? Like, what are they just trying to cover things up? Like, what's happening there?
Well, if it's a cease and desist coming from Mr. Beast, and his company,
Mm.
and I don't know if he's even responded to that allegation, right? It
No.
seems it might be that they're doing their own investigation of it, and they don't want people to go through it and read it before they read it, and
Mhm.
go through it, which is still wrong. I mean, it's it's information that's owned by multiple people. They have the right to put it up there,
Yeah.
is my opinion. So
Yeah. So that cease and desist apparently had been served around the 25th of July to a certain YouTuber or content creator called DogPat404, like is a user that actually hosted the site. And yeah, it just says like, it represents your, employer, Mr. Beast YouTube LLC. So yeah, that's basically kind of shows you that like yeah, they are really looking into that. And
yeah,
I can only assume that updates will be happening very soon about that because it has been a few weeks now.
yeah. I mean,
So
it's honestly, I can only imagine being on the receiving end of like a cease and desist from Mr.
mm.
Beast's organization. Like,
Oh, geez,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
yeah,
like the biggest strong there possibly is, right? You'd be
yeah,
like trembling almost, like, oh shit,
Yeah.
this person has like a lot of money, and if something happens the other way, or if like I'm seen doing something that's not yeah
mhm,
in their interests, I suppose, then what are they going to do to me that way? Yeah,
yeah,
there's a lot
Yeah.
of power there.
yeah. I agree with
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, it's probably very, very intimidating. Nobody wants to get caught up in like litigation or a legal
mm,
battle. So
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is essentially the situation there. Has anything else sort of surfaced since like the Discord logs had been taken down? Like, I'm pretty sure that really nothing else has been sort
no,
of,
not that I can see or that I can recall. I mean, there was a
yeah.
response from Finster because there were pictures of Chris
Oh,
Tyson and
yeah,
Finster together,
that's
but
right. Yeah.
I haven't really looked too much into that, to be honest with you. So
No, yeah,
Yeah.
same. There was like a 16-minute video uploaded
yeah,
to Twitter
hmm,
regarding all of that by Finsta. And it
yeah,
just seems like just going by the comments, it's just like you're trying to hide, and you're keeping up the
yeah,
fight, all this sort of stuff. So I don't know. It's kind of one of those things where I feel like that they were sort of supporting Ava Kris Tyson in a way because they are friends. They have been cited
Yeah.
together, and there's some things that like they do, um, collaborate on at some point. Like there are actual photos of them like together, just hanging out, just being buddies. So like maybe that's something that I will look into in the future. But I
yeah.
just feel like that it's it
Oh,
is what it is
another,
at this stage. Yeah.
yeah. Another annoying thing though is that you've got like Sneeko going around like I was right, and it's like, no,
Yeah.
we're not right. Like, like criticisms that Sneeko and other people had were like just like so empty, right? Like the whole how could
Yeah.
you leave your family? Like, there's no evidence that Chris Tyson left her family, right?
No.
But
Yeah.
the more like substantial critiques are the ones that you didn't bring forward, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very annoying to see Sneeko going around saying, I was right.
Yeah,
When
like, it's
Chris
very
doesn't
annoying
have
seeing
nothing to do with
Sneeko to
it.
begin with, but
I mean,
yeah.
yeah, sure. Yeah.
And so, like, Sneeko isn't the only sort of larger YouTuber that's kind of like speaking on the situation as well. I mean, you had Kai Cenat there, you've had
Yeah.
Hasanabi, Like you've also had Pokimane and Moist Critical and Valkyrie. Like there's been a few larger people that have been talking about this too. So it's kind of good that this is coming out and reaching a broader audience. And sort of making people aware of the situation. And yeah, I really hope going forward that people still cover this, including like the aftermath and what else Mr. Beast and Chris has to say about the situation.
I hope so too. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we have reached the point where we've basically covered almost everything there. You reckon, guys?
I feel like an expert now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
got it.
I hope you at home are also an expert now. All right, so yeah, Stardust, whereabouts are you? And do you want to like plug your channel and what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah.
Anything interesting?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun. And yes, you can find me at youtube.com/starduststreams, or all my links are at links.fromstardust.net. I will be doing a rebrand soon just because Stardust is not very good for me algorithmically. There's like a huge book and a huge movie that I will never beat in the algorithm.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Is this
So
where
just-
you were
just a
talking
heads
about
up,
the
you guys.
cheeses as like your name at some point? Like,
That
is
was
this
kind
like
of a joke. Yeah, it was kind of a joke. So it probably will not be cheese themed, but I will be
Yeah.
going through a rebrand
Hey,
soon. And
that
yeah,
could
just for
work.
people to keep an eye out on. So.
Yeah, lovely. I really hope that yeah, that turns out for you. I really love the fact that you're looking to get yourself wider known and like out of the shadows of like those books and movies and stuff like that. You deserve to be to be recognized on
Thank
your own
you.
volition, you know. So yeah, thank you so much to you, Stardust, for like coming onto the show and becoming
thank
an
you.
honorary broad for today. We really
Thank
value
you.
your expertise on the situation, and you come back another time. Yeah,
Yeah, of course. Of
Yeah.
course.
sounds
This is
wonderful.
fun.
All right, thank you. Okay, Bunny, take us out.
All right. Thank y'all so much for watching with us today and learning about the Ava Kris Tyson situation. And leave a comment below what you think Mr. Beast's next move's going to be from here. What's going to happen? And don't forget to like and subscribe. And bye-bye.
Bye bye.
I couldn't care if somebody's making like Rule 34 with like a kitchen blender, right? Like